I'm using this fan brush to make these little spirals here. They're not super thick, it's like an impasto brush stroke. The thing about Matisse is everything is so loose, so it's kind of like a Matisse interpretation. I'm not trying to do it identical. I'm kind of doing it the way that I see. This is basically showing how I use the acrylic colors as a foundation paint mixed with a little base coat, which makes it nice and flat on the background here. The base coat really softens the texture on there, so it goes on super flat. And just kind of get this loose expressionist brush stroke up here, wrapping around all these green little leaves. So I'm also using the Pyrrole orange and the cadmium red light. I use that to mix with the base coat for the background there. All of our pinks are made from the same acrylic colors. I'm also making the goldfish here with the cadmium and the Pyrrole orange. Working in this Matisse way, it's kind of fun because it's so loose, you don't have to worry about these fish looking perfect because they're just an impression. I'll go in and paint the eyes and the mouths in a little bit later on. And so the same thing here with this color here on the table, it's the same base coat mixed with the acrylic colors. I like to use all the same colors, the reds and the pinks, because it makes them all work really well together. A pastry bag filled with our recent color, the light magenta, and inside the bag I coated it with a little bit of alizarin crimson and a little bit more of the cadmium red. When I squirt it out, I got one side heavier on the cadmium and one side heavier on the alizarin crimson. So I'm just making these flowers. And of course in the Matisse painting, these are not textured, but this is how I paint, so I'm gonna add the texture where I feel I wanna add texture, because Matisse paintings are flat oil paintings. In our acrylic color, I'm gonna mix a little bit of Virdian, give a little bit of cool aqua color in there, and then a little bit of our titanium white acrylic color, and then just a little bit of phthalo. So again, these are all acrylic colors here for the background here. I'm gonna fill in the background here just around these pink flowers in a very loose way. You can see here that the titanium white acrylic color, it's got a little bit of texture for impasto. You can flatten it out and work it down like that, but it also has a little texture. And what's great about this titanium white, it has a ton of white pigment. So when you're using it to blend colors, you only need a little bit of the titanium white acrylic. Now we're gonna jump into the real nitty gritty of working with the green. This is one of the leaves on the Matisse painting, and we're gonna demonstrate how to use it with a straight palette knife. And this right here is our permanent, but I'm going to show you how to warm it up with one of our acrylic colors. Okay, so we have this, how do you say it, diarylide? We're going to warm this up with a diarylide yellow, which works really good. Turn this into a nice warmer green. It's a hair of carbon black. And we just totally transform this green into a new green. The green, this green is so universal. I can make any green with this green. So now that I have my base green changed, I'm going to take a little bit of acrylic color on the side, and this is one of the most important things about how I use our paint here. So I like when I glaze over it with another color. So I'm going to take a little bit of black and the diarylide, and it makes this kind of really deep green. So I'm trying to make this a little deeper than here. So when I actually run the knife over it, and you're going to get the two-tone colors. You can see how it's variegated in color there. And I often always practice on my palette to make sure it looks right. So the key is to press down and pull back. And you can see, so I did that to test and see how that green is working over it. And I think between those two is just right. And you're seeing multiple different greens, which to me gives it a really cool organic feel to it. I'm going to coat my knife right here. And I didn't mix this thoroughly because I want to see veins in the leaf. So I didn't mix it perfectly. And so now that I have my palette knife coated, I'm This is the key here for a lot of leaves that I do. It's a smooth over technique and to try and get a nice dollop. And you see all those lines in there, okay? There's gonna be a fan of 3 leaves here. So I need this leaf to spread out a little wider than the knife. So when I put it down here, I'm gonna push down on it hard and it's gonna spread it out. I'm gonna push, pull it down. So that's 1 leaf. It's a little bit, so that's where I take our carbon knife right here. And I might just, cause I'm gonna go back in and carve around it and just bring that point, cause I got a little fat on the bottom there, but that's okay. I wanna make the lines in the leaf, like the veins in the leaf. So I just might pull straight through there. And this is again impressionistic, so I'm not trying to be perfect. And so that's 1 leaf. In the original painting, there's 3 leaves there, but I'm gonna put however many it takes, we'll see. So here we go. A little bit of the acrylic color mix. The key is you wanna get it perfect on the knife. When you get it perfect on the knife, you have a much better chance. You see how rounded and smooth that is? It's gonna give you a much better opportunity to get it on the painting better. All right, so I'm gonna cut my lines in again. Looks like a leaf right off a paint tree. I've got the back coated in here in black base coat. It's okay if the little green is in there because when you look at the Matisse painting, it's not solid black. So I might just go ahead and blend a little bit of green in there anyway. I'm just taking a little bit of the green that I had from up there and blending that into the base coat. It's not this solid opaque black. Okay, the next leaf, it looks like a type of elephant ear that he's got going down right here. And so this one I do a little different. Let's see here. I'm gonna take some of the same mix that I had here. I'm gonna mix some of it all together here and coat the bag with it. We're gonna let some of the original green shine through, but this way it warms up the outside when we pipe it. So I'm gonna fill the bag with some permanent green. Got like a 1/3 of an inch hole cut in there. And so I'm gonna test it here. Color's looking good. So you can see how, that's what my goal is, to get it to bleed through like that, where the original permanent green shines through. I'm gonna carve it out with the knife, just kind of paint it around, not with the knife, with the bag. So here we go. Just typical elephant ear shape. And I'm just gonna fill it all in because I'm gonna go over it with a knife. I have the shape there. And then I'm gonna take our large trowel. The leaf has basically 2 quadrants, left and right. So I'm gonna split this into 2. I gotta decide if I wanna go up or down. I think I'm gonna go up so I keep this nice curve. That's 1. Nice. And so this is exactly what I want. You have some of the permanent green as it comes right out of the bag with some of the darker colors in there. And it's exactly what I wanted because that kind of shows like it's glowing through in light or thinner parts of the leaf. And so I don't ever do anything organically correct, but I'm just gonna make some kind of like leaf pattern. And let's see, I could do it like this. Not mad at that. The key is keep this really tight right here. There's an air bubble in there. I see, I gotta get out. I keep this tight right here. So when I push, it's very responsive to my finger there. You can see that right there. Look at that texture holding up right there. That's pretty awesome. I didn't do that on purpose. That just kind of shows how the texture really works right here. It's just great texture. I'm gonna use the same thing here for these. They don't actually show in the original painting the flowers or the leaves going into the, what do you call this, a goldfish pot? Stop it on the edge because it's kind of abstract. And then there's like a reflection of some green there. So I'm gonna take some of the green and just kind of brush an impressionistic leaf in the background here. I think on the original, it just shows a little hump there. I think I'm gonna do a whole leaf over here. Why not? I still have the bag coated here and it's still gonna work for me. So I'm just gonna add some more of the green into here. You can see how it's still coated, but then the raw green is in the middle. And then there's another leaf over here. So I'm gonna go and put that in right now. So it's just all done at one time. Since this one's a little smaller, I can use this knife right here. Just trying to keep that elephant ear shape there. Just gonna throw another leaf in right here with the palette knife. We have these little flower pots down here on the table. So there's one here and one here. And one of the leaves is kind of yellow. I still have some paint left here on my palette here of the permanent green. I paint a lot, so I keep the 5-gallon buckets here. I'm gonna add some white.
Did you just do one more scoop?
And I'm gonna keep the same yellow I've been working with. There's no point in bringing another yellow in. We're gonna turn this white into a little Dalarod yellow here, which is a nice warm white. And I'll be back and forth between these greens and whites, greens and yellows. I'm just gonna use straight acrylic color mostly, or maybe a little bit of the yellow here to make the little pots in there. This is a little darker than that, so this is again how we use the acrylic color with the texture. I've got a nice little bit darker there. So gonna make these two little pots. He's got a little black there to show the dirt in the pot. Again, very impressionistic, super simple, okay? So I did all that with a brush, super impressionistic, super simple. I'm gonna start with a clean knife. I'm gonna do this first one down here, and these are more yellow over here. So got a really long one just shooting down here, so that's, to me, it didn't land on top, that's okay, but I love to see the way all those colors mixed right there. Give it a little definition. And since this part didn't line up, I'm gonna do one more. This is gonna be a small one, perfect. Now if you come in here really close and see that little curl, I get really excited when that happens, and I try to salvage those little curls. Down here in the corner of the painting, they look like lily pads to me. I don't know what he's got in there, so I'm gonna use the leftover paint here that I have in this green and kind of fill in these lily pads. He has these little lily pads with pink flowers. So this is the petal knife right here to make these nice little round dollops. And I like that I have some of the yellow mixed in here because it kind of ties it all in together. Get a little bit more white for the pink here. I want a pink texture in there. And I don't care if it has a little bit of the green mixed in there because it's all kind of swirling in together anyway. And so I have a little bit of the cadmium red light to make my pink with here. I'm not gonna mix it too thoroughly. So it has a nice variegated color. Just make these little pink flowers. Basically all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this little chair in the bottom, and that's gonna have a little bit of the titanium white artist color. And so it looks like just like this chair that's supposed to be there. I'm just gonna just draw it in. You can see here the artist colors, they have a little bit of texture to them, but they have a high pigment load too. I can leave it textured or I can flatten it out. So I don't mind a little bit of texture in there. I'm gonna use a little bit of this to highlight the fishbowl here. I'm gonna highlight with just a little liner brush here, little eyeballs and mouths on these little goldfish here. And this is with our acrylic color, Carbon Black, and a little bit of the acrylic color white. So basically right now, I've got all this texture in there, and I'm gonna let it dry. And I'm gonna put this under a fan, and it's gonna be dry enough by the end of the day so I can cut in around it and not worry about pulling out the wet paint. However, to thoroughly dry under a fan, probably about 3 days total. But this will stand up vertically on the wall by the end of the day or tomorrow with a fan blowing on it. And this is actually, I push the threshold sometimes of how much texture I can do vertically. And this is a fairly vertical painting, but I didn't go super heavy texture, so I feel comfortable with the vertical rise of this painting without it falling off.